I'm just so tired of the media putting out these news stories about the 45th president as though that's going to change anyone's opinion. Until his base finds him to be upsetting and deplorable, nothing is going to happen. He still speaks for a certain amount of Americans who don't care about him calling African countries holes because they think those African countries are holes too. Hey guys, it's Wahima, but just call me Wah. Melanated! Ugh, I don't like this. Welcome to another episode of Morning Tea, where we sit in our sleepwear and discuss current events. Today's tea is something god-awful. I thought it was green. It is not. It had roses in it. I was led to believe it would be a delicious, aromatic, like Asian green tea, but it is something else. This episode features information and news stories that happened between January 7th and January 13th, 2018. Let's start with some pop culture tea. Here's the tea. Okay, so Mary J. Blige just turned 47 and she also just got her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Mary was also nominated for a Golden Globe for her performance in Mudbound. So big ups for Mary. I feel like 2018 is going to be a really good year for her, even though 2017 and 16 with that damn Kendu was annoying, but she still has a lot of good things happening in her career, so I'm really happy for her on that front. Now let's move on to some politics tea. Here's the tea. So the biggest story that happened this week is the 45th president made a comment referring to certain African countries, El Salvador and Haiti, as shithole countries. So apparently he was having a meeting with lawmakers this week talking about immigration, DACA, and other things that are happening in this country with regards to immigration. And he made a comment saying, like, why do we have to worry about, or why do we keep giving credence to people who are coming from shithole countries? Like, why don't we have people who are wanting to come from Norway, for example? My response to that is, yes, this president would absolutely say that. Norway, do people from Norway want to come to America because Norway has like civil and political unrest? No. I mean, it's just a really naive and stupid thing to say, which is what our president is, naive and stupid. I'm really tired of the left going out of their way to report every single stupid thing he says. Yes, what he said was super offensive, right? But it's him. Like, of course he said that. He's probably said way worse things. There were lawmakers in the room who were asked for a comment. Some of them didn't make comment, but a couple of them did. We have an example of Lindsey Graham, who came forward and said, basically, he said all he had to say about the subject in that room at the time. He did not confirm nor deny that that is what the president said, but the main thing is that he didn't deny that that's what the president said, him being a GOP lawmaker. The next GOP lawmaker to step forward was Senator Perdue. He, on the other hand, said that quote of Trump calling those countries was a gross misrepresentation of what the president actually said. So there is some confirmation that the president said something like that, but didn't use the phrase whole countries. Either way it goes, are we even like shocked? At this point, it doesn't matter what he does, because his constituents don't think that those countries are not whole countries. So all they're thinking is that he just said something that was un-PC, and that's exactly why they voted for him. I wish that the left would stop raising all the red flags when it comes to all the little antics and things that this president does, and like starts reporting on other things that are more important, like what actually happened in the meeting with lawmakers as opposed to the comment that was said. We're not getting down to what's actually going on. I feel like I can't find any real news stories because we're so busy worrying about what this president said. We're not going to get him out of the office until he disappoints his base. And until Fox News starts to report things that has the president in a negative light, which I doubt they ever will, it's not like his base is ever going to change. They're fed information in a different way. I go to Fox News all the time to get information for you guys, and it'll be the exact same headlines, but like a slightly different twist on them to make the president look like he's not bad, and it's just Democrats crying about stuff. And so until we can change the way their media gives them information, then it's not going to change. He's not going to come out of the office, and we're just going to have to move forward and try to do the best that we can. But I'm tired of like hearing his buffoonery. I'm just tired of it. Ugh. So speaking of immigration, this is something that I just wanted to speak on. I'm not going to speak very much about it. I do have links down below if you want to look it up. But this DACA situation is really starting to hit close to home because I had somebody come up to me at my job, shake my hand, tell me that I always treated him well, but that he wasn't going to be able to renew his EAD card, which is the card that he renews every 2 years underneath the DACA program that gives him sort of an amnesty in this country and allows him to work. And he's been here since he was a child. So he's not going to be able to come back to work after a certain date because of this. You know, they were allowed to work, they paid taxes, they gave to the economy, and now all of that is in jeopardy. So Donald Trump is saying that it's the Democrats' fault why DACA is going to die. It's probably going to die, and it's Democrats' fault is what he tweeted out the other day. And trying to push the blame on the Democrats. The only thing I can think of is maybe the reason why is because what comes along with DACA, the Democrats are probably saying no. So like I said before, DACA was kind of thrown into a bill that had to pass. Like it was thrown into the hurricane bill last year. 6-month period in which DACA was then up for review by the president was thrown into that. And now the conversation is back on the table, and it looks like whatever it is that the GOP or whatever it is the president has presented to the Democrats, they have rejected. And so now it's on their plate. It's their fault. That's what the president is saying. Do I believe that it's their fault? No, I believe that the president gave them some kind of bogus, you know, deal, and they're just like, no, we're not going to do that. And now he's going to say, oh, you said no? Okay, I'm going to tweet that you said no. Okay, so let's move on to some domestic tea. Here's the tea. Oh, real quick, you know what I wanted to say? You know what I wanted to say about domestic tea? Don Lemon. I was watching CNN, or actually I wasn't watching CNN. I was watching the internet as I do last week, and I saw a clip of Don Lemon like shutting down some talking head on his show, and then I was like, is that Don? Don with his little afro, his little Jay-Z fro. I'm like, okay, Don, y'all got to Don. You know, y'all been calling him all kinds of names, and he was like, people who are in positions like Don Lemon, I know we love to call them coons and we love to call them sellouts, but they're doing all the hard work so that we could be elevated. And that's personally what I believe. Now, along the way, do they misstep? Yes. Along the way, do they say things they shouldn't say? Do they get caught up? Do they drink that Kool-Aid? Yeah, they do. But I think that when they decide to come back or feel empowered to now be what they probably have always wanted to be and probably lost their way a little bit, they're on their way back. And I feel like Don Lemon, you know what I'm saying? Power to the people, Don. I'm feeling the fro. So another thing that's happening in domestic news is that somebody accidentally sent a message to a bunch of Hawaiians telling them that there was a missile on the way. A lot of people were scared out of their minds for a couple of minutes due to this emergency notice being sent out to every single phone. You know how your phone gets an alert when there's like an Amber Alert? It was like that, but it said missiles. I'm going to put the picture up. And so that person has now been released from their duties and they're doing another job. They have not been fired and an investigation is in play. So I'm just like, oof. The way they're saying is that there's no way that this could have been a mistake because the guy had to have done it himself. Like there's 2 levels asking if you really want to do something. There's 2 confirmation steps, like this whole thing. And I don't know if he thought he was in practice mode. He didn't realize that he was in live mode. Could you imagine getting that text, like a missile? Like, what do you do? Do we not, what do you do? What do you do? What do? I don't even know what I would do. What would I do? Like duck and cover? No, we don't have bomb shelters. There's no basements in California. Like, what would I do? I would just sit here. I get on Instagram Live like, yo, they just told me a missile was coming. I don't know what to do. So next we have a car crash that happened at like 5:30 in the morning on Sunday. And the person was driving the car was on drugs. They haven't released what kind of drugs yet. And they hit the center divider. The car spun, flew off the freeway into a building. And it's stuck in the building. And the driver was miraculously okay. And it's probably because he was high on something and so his body relaxed while the whole situation was happening. For more information, please click the link down below because that story is crazy. When I saw the picture of a car just hanging out in a building, I was like, was there a tornado? No, flew off the freeway. Lord of mercy. Keisha Bottoms. So Keisha Bottoms is the new mayor of Atlanta. Yay, Keisha, black woman, mayor of Atlanta. So she has got a group of people together, lawmakers and citizens. Two of those citizens are Killer Mike and T.I., which is the story. And she's gotten them together to try to help and like tap on the pulse of Atlanta to see what Atlanteans want, what they need, and how to make the community and the city much better than it already is. There was a lot of criticism because Killer Mike and T.I. are rappers, but like Killer Mike is more of an activist than anything. Personally, I know him more as Killer Mike, the activist, and then from that one hook on The Whole World from the Outcast. You know what I'm saying? Like, I barely know him as a rapper. And so it really makes me like excited. And I think it's really interesting that she would take two figureheads such as T.I. and Killer Mike onto her council. So, I mean, they're not in an official like political place. They don't have like an official political title, but they are an advisor of sorts. You know, it really feels like the people are involved. All right, guys, so let's move on to some international tea. Here's the tea. All right, so in international news, we've got a couple things. First, I want to say that I've got a update on Rohingya people. So apparently Myanmar is saying that one of the refugee camps that they've built for the Rohingya people and other displaced people to come back into the country will be available next week. I need pictures. I want to see how well those camps are created. What's the irrigation system like? What's the latrine system like? You know, are they prepared to stop crime? Like, what are those houses look like? Like, I'm saying, like, I really want to hold them accountable for their behavior. That the Rohingya people and some Hindu people who were kicked out into Bangladesh are now being allowed back in. And I hope that the refugee camp that they go to is a good quality camp for them. And I hope that Myanmar continues to build more refugee camps while they also build up back the villages and the cities that they burned down to the ground. So, another thing that's happening in the Philippines, in the state of Luzon, there is apparently an active volcano. So this volcano all of a sudden is active again, you guys. And so like, what do you do again? What do you do in a volcano? Like, what do you do when a volcano erupts? So people are on alert every day. They're getting more and more notices. I think 3,000 villagers from around the volcano have already moved out. And it's just like, when a volcano is done erupting, you can't just move back, you know? So these people are displaced for right now. And it's like geologically it's kind of cool, but like civically, like it's kind of like, oh my God, all these people are going to lose their lives or lose their possessions, lose the lives as they know them, not necessarily in death. So that's kind of crazy. So I will keep you guys updated if that volcano does in fact erupt and what the outcome of that happening in the Philippines might be. Okay, so next let's talk about Zimbabwe. So I don't know if I reported this to you guys. I might not have. In November, there was a low-key coup that happened in Zimbabwe. So Robert Mugabe and his wife Grace, right? Remember I talked about Grace? She's the one who popped the model in South Africa in the face with the electric wire. Okay. Robert Mugabe has been president of Zimbabwe for like 40 years, like 37 years. He was one of the freedom fighters with Nelson Mandela. So if you want to think about that situation, like that's how long ago he's been president, right? And there's been a lot of controversy, right? Because Zimbabwe, he has run the Zimbabwean dollar into the ground. Like Zimbabwe, their economic is horrible because of him and his regime. Every time there was an election, he would stomp out his opposition. With coercion, with threats, with all kinds of stuff, you know, so people stopped running against him. So finally, later last year, there was an incident where people were crying for Grace to become the vice president, but there was already a vice president, right? So it was like, I even heard this. I was like, Grace Mugabe, the president's wife, is going to be vice president? Like, what happened to the current vice president? I don't know if Grace wanted to be vice president and she started to like do stuff politically to try to get out the vice president who is vice president because he is a protege of Robert Mugabe. He's been with Mugabe since the very beginning. He was one of the early freedom fighters. I used to call him ED. Okay. So ED was feeling a lot of pressure from Grace and her peeps. Even though Grace and ED and Mugabe are all in the same political party, there's a lot of infighting. So he felt his life was in danger. So he got out of the country. And apparently the stories that are surrounding him getting out of the country says it could be like an action movie. So he had to flee to South Africa in order to get away from Grace and her mobsters, or Grace and her team. So due to that, he had a good relationship with a military leader. And the military leader and the military in general, there's like been some, you know, upset because Mugabe is 93 years old. And so everybody feels like it's time for him to step down and he just wasn't stepping down. So after they ran ED out of the country. The military guy was like, nah. So they went to Robert Mugabe's house and they held him under house arrest under the guise of helping him and like keeping him from harm, because apparently there was a lot of political unrest due to ED leaving the country. So they went on ahead and put Robert Mugabe under house arrest for his own safety, and later on, Robert decided that it was time for him to step down. So he stepped down as president, and in the interim, his vice president, ED, came back from South Africa to Zimbabwe to take over. And so a lot of Zimbabweans are really excited that ED is back in the country and that he's their president. ED is stating that he's going to hold elections. He can hold elections as early as March or as late as September of this year for whoever else to run against him to get votes to become president. But I have a sneaky suspicion that ED is going to be president of Zimbabwe for the rest of his life. People who have that kind of power don't want to give it up. There have been a lot of things said about ED, that he's done some good in the country, he's done some shady stuff in the country, and if the Zimbabwean dollar does better underneath his tenure, then I don't think most people will complain if he remains president. But I would like to see him actually hold an election. I would like to see democracy do what it should do in that country and see what happens, I think other people deserve an opportunity to try to change Zimbabwe around. Now, if everyone's corrupt, everyone just gets into politics for money and to fill their own coffers, then like that sucks. But I think you at least at some point have to give them an opportunity to try. All right, you guys, that is it for this episode of Morning Tea. If you have any questions, comments, or concern, you'd like to leave a comment down below, please do. Again, all the links are down below so you can check out these issues. If you like what I do here on this channel and you would like to consider becoming a Patreon patron, please click the link down below. Otherwise, have a fantastic day. Bye.